font size changes, our layout will still look good. All right, we'll save this and refresh in the browser, and there we go. It looks good. Okay, so again, what we're doing here is dealing with the layout for the desktop size first, and then we're gonna do the shrink until it looks bad approach. And we'll add a breakpoint at that point and adjust the styles based on that. And so let's start collapsing this down until it looks bad. So at first, it looks good. Everything is keeping in alignment, but the space between the elements is starting to get a little small. So about this point, it looks like this bottom navigation drops to 2 lines. And maybe that's not a horrible thing. It definitely could be worse. But we also see the border here spreading into this contact information. So rather than just be okay with it, let's set a breakpoint and start adjusting the styles there. So let's see, where does that start to happen? It looks like it's about right here. So as we change the sizes in the browser, you can see up here in the upper right-hand corner, the size. So we're looking at about 1,010 pixels or so. So that's about where things start to get ugly. So what exactly should happen here? Well, right now there's 3 columns. There's a left, center, and right. And typically what's gonna happen as we get smaller is we're going to reduce the number of columns. So we can choose at this point. Do we want to reduce down to 2 columns and mix these 2 things or this thing and that thing? Or do we just want to cascade down to a single column? Because by doing that, we can probably continue to make the browser smaller and things will look good. I think for this particular element, it's not going to make a lot of sense to spend the time to collapse this down to 2 columns first. I think if we can just have 1 breakpoint here, that'll be sufficient. The footer also isn't a very big deal when it comes to the interface. It's not something that people are going to use a ton. So I think it makes sense to collapse straight down to the single column. Let's see how we would do that. So first we have our social navigation. I'm just going to work my way down through the markup. And right now it's being floated on the right. Once we collapse down to a single navigation, we're going to need to unfloat that. So while I could just uncheck that here in the browser, let's simulate what it's going to be like to override this style. Because at this point we're going to have to override it in our CSS. So let's set the float to none at this point to override it. And now just like our navigation here, I think it makes sense to align this to the middle. So once we have the float none, the only content inside of this are characters. So we can actually text align this to the middle in order to align them to the center of the block element. So this looks good in terms of centering, but now the spacing's a bit off. There's just not enough space between these icons and the menu below it. So let's add some margin to the bottom. Let's try 20 pixels. All right, that seems fair. We could make it a little bit bigger if we really wanted to distinctly separate it from here. But visually, there's enough space so that it doesn't feel too compressed. And so now let's override this. Again, we're gonna pull it into a single column. So I'll inspect the element here, and down here, I'm gonna select the container element of that. And again, we need to override the float. So we'll do float none. And again, let's try the text align. We'll do text align center. Okay, again, that brings us into nice alignment, but let's add some spacing between it and the navigation below it. So we'll add margin bottom 20 pixels again.